Welcome to Hidden Ways to Reimagine Successful Family Relationships. My name is Pauline, and in my videos, I use my lived experience, I use my reflections from the book I published just to help you, not just to navigate the challenges of your relationship, but my main goal is to get you to begin to think, to begin to reimagine, and to begin to repurpose your successful family relationships. Because I believe that there is no right or wrong formula for relationships to be successful or to be fulfilled. I believe it is a journey, and it is a journey that is supposed to be enjoyed. It's not a destination. So in my reflection, I've spoken about different areas to help you begin to renavigate your family relationships. I have, for example, looked at the difference between identity and purpose. I've looked at your roles and responsibilities. I've also looked at what I call a new series, which I started a few weeks ago, and I titled the new series Same Page, Different Books. And under this series, I'm looking at some of those pressure areas that would actually tend to make or break family relationships. So in previous videos under this series, I have looked at the essential role of communication. I've looked at barriers. I've also looked at whether or not we are controlling or whether we are caring. And most especially, I've also looked at boundaries and why it is very, very key to respect boundaries in relationships. So in this episode, I am going to focus on parenting. Parenting for me is key in family relationships because we are not trained. We do not learn how to be parents. We learn as we go. And being parent is much more than just raising or guiding our children, as they grow up. For me, parenting is about a journey. If you used to watching my videos, you will keep hearing me talk about journey, because we are constantly on a journey. So parenting for me also is a journey, and most importantly, it is a retrospective journey. It is a journey that we make on our own self-discovery. So why is it retrospective? It is retrospective because our childhood experiences and also the emotions we had, how we were raised, the kind of environment we were brought up in would consciously or unconsciously interfere with our own parenting styles and how we interact with our children. Some of us were, raised in very, very traditional, families. Some others are raised in families where they had, traumas in their childhood, and this we tend to interplay or play or shape their own parenting styles. In my own example, I could think of how I was raised and how that impacts my own style of parenting as well. I was raised in a very traditional family where, there wasn't anything like, having to explore whether it was a happy family or not, whether it was a fulfilled family or not, whether it was a successful family or not. It was just important that it was a family where discipline, was key, morale was key, education also was key, and then again, having to, religion also, I must say, was key. So it was a very, very traditional family, but again, I wasn't really taught how to explore my own emotions, especially negative emotions. I wasn't taught how to express my feelings. I mean, if I didn't completely agree with my parents or not. But again, that was what worked in that environment, and that was how we were brought up. But again, looking at my relationship, for example, with my mother, when I look at it reflectively, I think I internalized her own way of parenting me. And if we were to ask me today one word that would describe my mother's parenting style, I would say she was present. She was a present mother. I'm not able to say whether she was perfect. That is totally, out of the question for me. But again, she was always present. So, but being present, doesn't mean that things don't happen. Being present, in the time I was growing up, meant my mother was there, my parents were there to meet my needs. Roles were socialized. My mother was, very supportive. My father was a bit authoritative. I am going to look at that in a minute, but the roles were really very, very clearly defined. But I mean, in society we live in these days, these roles are not no longer so rigid. They are really very flexible, and they are fluid. So you might have a relationship, for example, where the man or where the father is more supportive, is more emotional, and when the woman is a bit more rigid, more able to hold on, set standards, and tend to be strict as well. So, but again, like I said, this society where we find ourselves, and of course, we need to be able to adapt to the changing landscape of the society in which we live. If I think, for example, about the way I was raised up, I couldn't have raised up my children the same way I was raised up. I was raised up when values were very, very much on the table. Everybody knew exactly what was right and how to do it. We actually struggled to do the wrong thing because everyone was on the straight and narrow. We all went to school, we all went to church, and we are all, very present in our families. We had roles in our families. But like I said, if I try to use that same approach on my children, that would have been a total failure because even though the values are still the same, children, in these days really find it difficult to assimilate, some of those values. The environment is totally different. The country is also totally different. And then again, there is the presence of the internet. So our children are not only just being educated or being raised by us, it's like more or less the society has a greater impact, a greater influence on the way we raise our children. And again, the social media has totally taken a control of the way we raise our children. But I believe that much of the responsibility should also remain within the family, and the family should be the place where children begin really to learn how to relate to the external world. I just said that, for me, being a parent doesn't mean being a perfect, parent. It just means being a parent that is present. And again, it's not just enough to be present. We need to be intentional, in being present. So which means it's something that we have to do intentionally, and it shouldn't just be that it's something that we do occasionally. It's something that just happens. Being present in the life of our children doesn't mean that happens. We need to be very, very intentional about it. So being present also doesn't mean occupying the same space at the same time or being in the same place. Sometimes you might be in the same place, the same space, the same time, like in the family. But again, you are not connected. You are not intentionally present. Physically, you're present, but again, you are just not connected. So it's really very, very important that being intentional means really making that effort, to make it, to make a place for it, to work for it, to be connected, and also to focus on our relationship with the children. And again, it's not just about being connected emotionally. I think it's actually more important for us to be connected spiritually. In this day and age, sometimes, parents think they are present in the life of their children, and this is what I would call the digital presence. For example, you might be at work and then you have a phone, you give a child a phone, and you just keep checking, where the child is, what the child is doing. I don't believe that is being present. That is just a way of you checking or controlling, where your children are. But being intentionally present means, being part of their lives and also dedicating that time and that space to take a part in their lives, and also to take cognizance, for example, of their interest or what they do, and so on and so forth. And again, being present in the lives of our children is also is an area that changes. As children grow up, the way we connect with them will also change. It will also change from being maybe physically, present all the time, to be more connected or being related to them in a completely different way. So the way we are connected, to children, and the way we are intentional about our relationship with our children will also evolve with time. And it's also good for us to be able to adapt, with some of these changes. I mentioned the difference between an authoritative and an authoritarian, parenting style, for example. And again, like I said, they're really no longer so rigid. They're now, very, very flexible and very fluid. You have, for example, the authoritative parent that is quite responsive as well, can be supportive, gives guidance, but this is, with firm limits. So you do set the limits, but again, you're warm, you're understanding, you actually, very close to your children as well, which is very different from the authoritative, parent that is very rigid, is very controlling, is strict with rules, but again, there is a lack of connectivity. There is also the lack of warmth, and then the lack of understanding. So, like I said, these are some of those, traditional ways, children are being raised up. And then again, whatever style of parenting you are going to adapt will also depend on the child you have, on the nature of the child. The child is always an individual, so you cannot use maybe a particular, parenting style for both children, for example, or for more children, because children are individuals. And then it's very, very important for us to understand the type of, children we have, and then again, gradually come to understand what works, what type of relationship, we should have with them, and how we should actually, raise them up. But again, it's very, very important generally that we spend quality time to connect with our children. That quality time is what is missing, especially in our everyday life. And sometimes we do not listen to our children. I remember my sons growing up, and each time my son told me, "Mom, you are not listening. Mom, you are not listening." Because sometimes we just listen to respond. We are not listening to understand. So listening is really very, very, it's a key part of raising, children in an environment. And then again, it is very, very important for us to be a positive role model. We really have no idea of how much children learn from us, from the cues in the family. Children learn more by observing, by just watching us, rather than what we say or what we do. They do a lot of observation. And again, it will be very important for us as parents also to understand that it is the way we actually, raise our children, that our children would think of, they would imbibe in trying to raise up their children as well. Just like the example I gave before, unconsciously, I just internalized my mother's own way of raising me up. But at the same time, I'm trying to say that children who are raised up in a particular way, we tend to integrate that style of, raising up children when it comes to their own time to do so. So it is a very, very important part of, parenting, that we are a positive role model, to our children, especially because right there in the society, there are no positive role model. There are wrong role models that our children are exposed to in the society, and especially in the social media as well. So we should be good listeners. We should also be positive role models, so that our children, they learn the right values, they learn the right thing to do right from their parents in the family. And then again, another thing I want to talk about is validating our children's emotions and acknowledging how children feel. Like I said, I was raised up at a time and at an age where children their emotions are not validated, their emotions were not acknowledged, or they were just not allowed to think or not allowed to feel. And I think that was one of the challenges I had raising up my children as well, because they had a lot of questions. My children were asking me questions. I dared not ask a question, when I was growing up. There were things I just had to accept without asking questions. But in my own, when I became a parent, I did struggle with the fact that my children had to ask, questions. And actually, I had to read up certain information to be able to answer my children's questions. So it's very, very important to validate children's emotions, what they feel, how they feel, even if we do not agree with them. And then it's very important as well to teach our children how to regulate their emotions, and again, how to manage their emotions. So the family should be a place where children, thrive, where children explore their emotions. They are able to express exactly, what they feel. And whether or not we agree as parents, it is very important that our children learn how to express themselves, express their emotions, and they should be effectively managed in the family. And then again, as parents, I think it's very, very important, for us to be able to manage our own needs in order to be better parents. Sometimes we want to be perfect parents, and I want to specify there is nothing like a perfect parent. No one is perfect. And then again, there are also no perfect children. So we need to keep the conversation real. We're not raising perfect children. And then there is nothing like perfectly happy children. So I'm going to come to that in a minute. So I personally believe that we need to take care of ourselves first. We need to be better persons in the first place before we can be better parents. So the investment should be first on ourselves as persons, and then by the time we're better persons, by the time we are better people, we can become better parents. I believe that the family should be the very, very first place where the children should learn about how to navigate the world. So the lens of the family should be those lens that the children should use to look at the world. So in my own time growing up, it was the kind of values I was exposed to in the family that actually helped me in being able to look at the world. And of course, it's some of those values that I was exposed to in the family were very different from the values I experienced in the world. But because I had a very solid family foundation, and those values were very internalized by me, I was just able to sail through my experiences when I was not exposed to the external world, and I really didn't find it difficult to be a sign of contradiction, put it that way in the world, because the world will teach us things that are contrary to what the family teaches us. And that's why I believe that the family should be the first place where children are really taught about the world, how the world, could be different, how the world is going to stand, contrary to the values, we believe. And then again, how children should actually be prepared to be different, in the face of the world, and not necessarily just blend. Sometimes it is good also to stand out in order to be outstanding. So it is important, for us to keep it really very real with our children so that they are not confused. So unfortunately, many children are confused today because they have more questions than answers. And unfortunately, the family is not there to provide those answers. I did say at the beginning that I did struggle I had a good relationship with my children, but I did struggle when they came with certain questions, and I had to research in order to provide, those questions, because I had a good relationship with my children. But there are families where children do not dare to raise, certain questions, or maybe families are too busy to be there to have those conversations. So children do have questions, but unfortunately, when they're not able to find those answers in the family, they turn elsewhere for those answers. They look to the outside world, in order to be validated. They look to the social media where they get all the wrong responses about things they should have learned in the first place from the family. So we need to keep our conversations real in the family. If we do not teach our children the right things, the right way to go, the right way to approach the world, then, of course, if we do not teach them, then they would. Some other person is going to teach them. The society is going to teach them. Social media is going to teach them as well. And they will have nothing to compare, the world with. For example, if all they know is what they learn from the world and is what they learn from the social media, then of course, they no longer know the truth. So we need to be able to keep our conversations, real with our children. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find that space to have those important, conversation, with our children. And again, for us to have those conversations, we need to create, the supportive and the warm environment in the family where children are allowed to express their emotions. And again, opportunities, spaces where we can have those conversations, even in ways that are not formal or maybe formalized. So sometimes I believe we really don't know our children because we haven't really spent that time. We haven't invested in knowing our children. And I can tell you from experience that sometimes we know the good version of our children. We know the version of our children we want to know, which sometimes is not the real version of our children. And again, knowing our children is also a process. And of course, as human beings, our children also change, their interests change, their passions change, the kind of things they want to accomplish in their lives will also change as well. And of course, life itself is a process and it's a journey, and it's okay for children to change their interests, to change their passions, to change maybe whatever they found they were initially interested in, and they are no longer interested in. So it's also good for us as parents to be able to accompany our children in this journey. So I personally believe that we need to have very open and honest conversations about the world as it is. Children need to know the world as it is. And like I said before, they would view the world from the values we have internalized or we have socialized our children to knowing right from the family. Again, as parents, sometimes we also contribute to teaching our children not to manage their expectations, and also there are things we also consciously or unconsciously do that really don't encourage our children to have a balanced view of the world. For example, let me come with one example to explain this. Sometimes, we make children believe that, hard work always pays. Hard work, we know in life, doesn't, always pay. Sometimes, people work, yet they do not get the pay they deserve. So hard work doesn't always pay. And again, the social media is there to teach, children this. They no longer need to go to school to spend the time, to study. They do not need to have a degree. They do not need to have a career. All they need to do is just maybe try to be an influencer, try their luck, with the social media, and, luck will smile on them someday. And then, of course, they are going to be successful. So this is one of those things we tend, to teach, children that hard work always pay, but we know that hard work, doesn't always pay. So we need to be very clear about that. And again, we also need to teach children that people don't always get what they want. And I think it is wrong, for us to give children that impression that people always get what they want. Yes, people can work hard for what they want. Sometimes they don't get what they want, but simply by being good or simply by being nice, people will not get what they want, or life will not smile on them positively because they are simply good. Good things happen to bad people, and also bad things happen to good people. So we must have this balanced view of life. And then again, it's very important for us to teach our children that they can't have everything in life. I think this is a wrong way to bring up children. We don't. No one has everything in life, and it is not a good example to teach children that they can't have everything in life. Sometimes we have more of something, or sometimes we have less of something, and there's always some kind of sacrifice to be made. Growing up, I learned Adam Smith's opportunity cost, that there is always, that important commodity that is going to be left on board. So we cannot have everything in life. And then again, no one is 100% happy all the time. So it is also a wrong idea to make children believe, yes, that you always be happy, we do everything to make you happy. It is also good for children to know how to manage their emotion, that yes, sometimes you can be happy, and it's also okay sometimes to be unhappy, or sometimes, having good days and also having bad days as well. Right. It is good for us, as far as I'm concerned, to spend quality time with our children. Quality time to invest in, be present, with our children. And then again, I know that especially for those who live in the UK or those who live abroad, there is a tendency to spend a lot of time just working, denying our children that precious time that could be spent in being connected, in knowing our children better, but rather we prefer to spend the time working so hard, just to give our children what we believe they need or what we think they deserve. I believe that they will forget those fancy toys and those fancy phones that you, as a parent, you are working so hard to give them, but they will not forget the time you spend with them. And here again, I want to revert back to my own experiences. My children are in their late, 20s, and in my conversation with them, they do not really talk about, some of those fancy games, some of those fancy toys I bought for them when they were growing up. For example, the kind of gift, they wanted for Christmas, or maybe the kind of gift they wanted for their birthdays or for special occasions, Easters and all that. But it actually surprises me that when I have these conversations with my sons, what they talk about is, for example, the time we spent together, where we went to, what we did, and sometimes, they talk about what we ate, the people we met, the places we visited, and most importantly, the great laughter, we had. And sometimes having to think about those moments, those times we spent together, we actually, relive those moments. And again, we actually have greater laughter than the laughter we had at that time. So my dear viewers, what I want to just share with you with this last experience, the time, we spend with our children is much more valuable than the things we give to them. So in your parenting, think more about the time you spend, with your children, the time you spend building the relationship you have with your children, because at the end, that is what is going to remain with them, and not those fancy toys and games you're working so hard to provide them. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the content, I would encourage you to subscribe. And then in my next video, I'm still going to continue on this episode on Same Page, different books. And this time I am going to looking at children with special needs. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.